Allie Marotti standing by, senior reporter. Allie, help me again?
Marotti.
Allie Marotti.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not the first person to call you Marotti by mistake. I apologize. I'm not that smart, Allie. Allie, I'm not that smart.
Allie Marotti.
Allie Marotti.
Well, thanks for having me.
Nice to have you. Senior reporter for Crain, Chicago Business, covering consumer products, food, restaurants, and retail. I want to talk about the dollar store story and how it affects neighborhoods that are struggling. But why don't we start here with the bigger headline for the moment, at least. Kroger's getting ready to sell Mariano's. What does that mean to us?
Yeah, so there's a lot still up in the air. We should say that. But based off what we know now, Kroger is selling off 14 of its own, the locations it owns in Illinois. So that could be Mariano's. It could be they own 10 Food for Less locations here, too. We don't know which they're selling exactly. But then they're also selling the Mariano's name as part of that deal, which means all of the Mariano's locations that they hang on to after this deal is done, they will rebrand those. And again, that's going to be the majority of the 44 Mariano's that exist.
Wow. I love grocery stores. I love all of them. I'm an equal opportunity grocery store walker-inner. But does that mean that, because I feel like Mariano's, the growth there went super fast, and now we've come to get used to it and we love it. When they rebrand it, will they all be gone?
So the ones that they're selling will theoretically keep the name. And then the company that's buying them could buy additional locations down the line or open up more Mariano's stores. But the ones that Kroger hangs on to, so right now we're presumably saying that that's about 30 locations, those will change.
Well, my understanding is Walmart's killing it in groceries, and they figured out some of the problems that they weren't doing well, like produce wasn't fresh enough, and some of the meats weren't as good as you could get at other places like Costco and things like that. And Walmart, because of the size of Walmart, they've been able to address that in mass. Is Walmart the grocery behemoth now?
Yeah, you're exactly right. They're the largest grocery seller in the country, which is kind of crazy. And, Mariano's parent Kroger and Jewel Osco's parent Albertsons, that's one of the reasons why they want to do this deal. They want to merge together in a $24.6 billion deal so that they can better compete with Walmart and also Amazon, which isn't the biggest grocery seller, but they're really good in things like diapers and stuff like that you can also buy at grocery stores. So it's a competition thing for sure. But also, there are concerns about antitrust approval from the FTC, and so that is why they're trying to sell off some of their stores before they push this merger through.
Do we know if anybody is gouging us? I mean, I'm the furthest thing from a conspiracy theorist guy, but the cost to make the food, the cost to get the food to the grocery store, the cost they charge us at the grocery store. Have you seen any quantifiable studies or evidence that says we're paying what we ought to be paying at this point?
It's a great question. I haven't seen any studies about that, but you're exactly right. Food inflation is still, though it has eased, it's still uncomfortably high. I cover all of the big food manufacturers that are based here, too. So Kraft Heinz, Mondelez, ConAgra, and they are continuing to discuss raising prices. Their prices go up for their ingredients, then they raise prices. But then you also have this additional layer that the consumer has no transparency into, and that is the dealing that goes on between the food maker and the food seller, so the grocery stores. So you're still seeing things that are really high, and that is another reason why this proposed deal between Kroger and Albertsons has come under such scrutiny. If America is experiencing inflation, the number one place Americans see that is in the grocery store aisles, and they are still seeing that, and there are concerns about what this deal could do to those prices in the future.
Yeah, and the tolerance to pain allows you to say, and I ran into this yesterday. I was out in Wooddale, and I needed gas. And I saw gas for $3.80 a gallon. I went, sweet, what a deal. And in my head, I'm pumping gas for $3.80 a gallon going, well, that's a lot still. But $3.80 a gallon is literally 50 cents cheaper than it was in my neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So the same thing goes to the grocery store, Ellie. If we get used to paying a ridiculous amount of money for a product and they cut that price eventually by 20%, we're going to think it's a win.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It has a lot to do with what people perceive as being a good deal, right? And I think a lot of that we're seeing people switch to private label brands, which, again, like this deal, Kroger and Albertsons both own their own private label brands. They're going to sell some of those off as well. Like as they sell off the Mariano's brand name, they'll sell off some of their the private label stuff too. So that's where we could see changes in the aisles happening, through this deal. But yeah, I mean, there's still people switching to private label brands. And then once you make that switch, it's really hard to get customers to come back to your big brand names.
The dollar store thing you read about as well, in this and West Side communities in particular, potentially hurting local businesses because they don't have access when all these dollar stores pop up. Is that the gist of this?
Yeah, we took a look at the type of stores that really proliferate in, the South and West Side low-income areas, and dollar stores were one of them. We also looked at, fried food restaurants and that kind of stuff. And with dollar stores, it's sort of a double-edged sword. They're growing pretty quickly, backed mostly by private equity, and private equity kind of has this reputation to sort of ruthlessly slash costs in an effort to create efficiencies. But they also have the money to fuel growth, right? So you could see local hiring coming from that. But ultimately, the concern here is that, they're not based here. They're taking money out of the community, which is not great in these communities that have long been underinvested in. And then, they have access to food, but often it is packaged food. It's not necessarily the healthy stuff that communities that don't have a ton of grocery stores need. So it's kind of like myriad concerns around these.
Are we going to start seeing more Piggly Wigglies pop up in the Chicagoland area?
So that's a real possibility. This company, C&S Wholesale Grocers, that is buying the 14 Kroger-owned stores, one of the companies that they operate is Piggly Wiggly. So we don't have any of those in the Chicago area right now. There's some up in Wisconsin. There's a good chance that they could bring some of those in. This whole deal will kind of give them a foothold in the Chicago market and in Illinois in general. So there's a lot that's still up in the air about this deal, a lot that could change for, Chicago area grocery shoppers. And that's one thing that could potentially happen.
Yeah, big southern grocery chain before, Wisconsin and I think Iowa and some other places started to see Piggly Wigglies. But we'd say it all the time when I lived in South Carolina.
Sure.
I'm cutting off the lots, going over to Piggly Wiggly.
Yeah. I just hope we get some Piggly Wigglies around here.
Yeah. So, Allie, Marotti, nice job by you. We hope you'll come back.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, be well. Thank you for coming on.